Hi guys, Ronda here. Okay, so I thought I would take you on this journey with me. Some of you have expressed that you would like me to show you how to do my needle books, and I don't do them all the time, but periodically I get in the mood, and I'm kind of in the mood to make one, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to let my friends come along with me on this journey. What I have done previous to turning on the camera, and I will explain all of that. So I decided what kind of measurement that I wanted an overall needle book to have. I mean, they come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, but I'm making a little book. And so for these purposes, this is, and I do it just a little bit larger so that I can cut down, but I want my finished needle book size to be, when it's laid out flat, 11 inches long and 6 inches high or wide. And so I have this just a little bit larger than that. So I have layered a piece of tracing paper. It's got a nice little crinkle to it, just in case you were wondering, needing a little bit of that. Okay. Glassine here would be perfect. And by the way, for those of you that are interested, I will be carrying in my Etsy shop soon glassine paper, 12 by 12 inch sheets of glassine paper, and a variety of glassine bags. Since I love them, it's like, okay, there's got to be other lovers out there. Okay, so here's my batting. It's just some people call it wadding. It's just, you buy it in your, like a craft or a fabric store usually. It goes in between quilts and whatnot usually, but it's used for many things. So I wanted the padding. So I don't need this layer, but it's easier to use a layer of something underneath, and I like the crinkle so that I'm not stitching, just that my batting is the back. It's just easier to go in your sewing machine. It works better. But I still want a backing, the inside of my needle book. So what we're going to do, okay, slow down, Rhonda. Okay, this is going to be the front. This will be the back. This will be the spine, okay? So it will fold like this. And what I'm going to show you is my method. I've shown it to you before, but I'm going to continue and show it to you again, how I stitch as I go. So when this is done, you'll have all kinds of stitching on the inside, and I'm going to line it with my piece of lining fabric, okay? And what I did deliberately this time, I don't always do this, but I thought, oh, let's do it this time. I allowed for a 3-inch pocket, okay? And so I just ironed it. I prepared it the right size, and then I ironed up 3 inches. And I have this ready to go when my book, the front, is done. Then I can stitch this in. And this way, if I don't want lines in here, then they'll just show here. You won't see them on the inside. If you want to see those lines on the inside, then what I would do is stitch and add this to what I'm stitching on the front. and then you would see all those lines. But if you're adding the pocket like I'm doing here, you would not include that, or it wouldn't be a pocket anymore. It would be stitched in together. So you could do that. But for this first one, I'm going to try it this other way. I may be sorry that I did that. Let me think. Now, yeah, let's just go for it. Okay. And I just used a glue stick to kind of tack down some of this batting, you know. All right. So I want to fold this to get my center, okay? And then I am going to, with a pen maybe, I don't know, I need something to kind of give me just a little bit of an idea that here's my center. So keeping in mind that I want my spine maybe up to 1 inch, but maybe not. I may just do one little signature, but this makes it so when I'm decorating that it works, and I'll show you how that works as we go along. All right, so first of all, what you're going to want to do is get your base and get yourself set up. Put me on pause. Oh. Okay. I was self-pausing for a moment for you. And then get your scraps and such out. Since I have these colors already out, and since I'm in love with pinks, then I think pinks is a good way to go. And so I will begin. I like that. Let's just start somewhere, okay? Alrighty. Now, as I am stitching this, I'm wanting to, it's kind of like a log cabin stitching where you do one and then you kind of go around. For those of you that are familiar with the quilting, I'm going to use, because I'm going through these different layers, normally I use a 2.2 when I'm just stitching quilt blocks together or that type of thing, fabrics, but because I'm using some paper and batting and fabrics, I'm going to go to a 2.6 on here, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch this, and I'm not turning off the camera, I'm just speaking a little bit louder and adjusting my stitch length. And I am going to take a 1/4 inch seam line and I will show you what I'm doing here, okay? First of all, I'm going to clip my threads on the back and on the front. This is not a process making these needle books that I want lots of loose threads going. Sometimes absolutely, but not now. See what I did by putting this right side up and then this right side to the right side and taking my stitching line, then I fold it over. This is also called quilt as you go. So I have quilted through these layers. That holds them together. And had I had this, then you would see that line there as well, and it would start tacking this lining as well. Okay? So now I want to find another pretty fabric, and I pulled out my pile. You guys, I have moved so many times in the last several years. I used to have I used to probably have 5 times this much pink fabric. But this is what I've got now. But I make good use of it. I use it a lot. And small pieces go a long ways. So if you feel like you don't have enough, just try not to judge what you're doing by what other people are doing. That comparing yourself is not helpful, I have found. I usually come up lacking myself when I compare myself to other people. I have a tendency to be hard on me and generous with other people. Now see, look at this piece. This is wonderful because this is a batik, by the way, for those of you that are not as familiar with fabrics. And by the way, I'm using 100% cottons. And for the most part, they're high quality. There are a couple of pieces that aren't as high quality, but this is not going to be washed, and so it will still work. But look how beautiful that is. And this is the back. So if you want 2 different fabrics, you could do some on the back, and then you could do some on the front. That's one of the fun things about batiks. They are more expensive. And don't throw those scraps away, because those scraps cost just as much as the larger pieces of fabric that you cut them from. So they're very worthwhile. So now I want to decide where I want to go. Yeah, that looks so pretty. I'm almost wanting to do this as the right side. Maybe I will. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to line this up. I'm going to stitch here next. You decide. It's up to you. I could go like this, keeping in mind that I need at least 1/4 of an inch for a seam allowance. I don't want any holes or empty spots. I want it all covered up. So you decide what that looks like for you, okay? So I think I'm going to go ahead and line this up, and my piece is just a little bit bigger here. And let's see, let me bring that in a bit closer so you can see. And I am just folding that over and snipping with some of my smaller scissors. And then there's another perfect piece to save for later on. So it's the same length. So it's just a guide for me, is basically what I'm doing that way. Okay, continuing on. And this is just, take your time. You don't have to hurry with this process. Part of the fun, honest and truthfully for me, is really just picking my fabrics, deciding what I want to do, where I want to put what where. So here again to show you, I am clipping my threads on the back, and I am clipping them on the front. All right. Then we'll fold it over, and we have this. Now I don't want this big of a piece. And do I want, in fact, let me show you. I'll grab real quick one of my other quilted pieces that I have. This is a journal. This one is not strictly been done like a log cabin. It's just kind of hit and miss. I've just sort of squeewampish, but I did that deliberately. So it just depends upon the look that you're going for. And I love this, but I also love the kind of log cabin style. And normally, doing this log cabin style, I would not have added a piece here. You would start, this would be your center, you would add here. And then you would go either here or here and around. You would go around as you work. But I'm not being very strict about it. Now I think that will be a good in-between length. So then I'm going to fold that up and just clip clip or snip, being careful. Got another piece to use later on. Okay. And so this is, so this is how we go. So I like that. I like that. Either way would be great. And I think we'll go here for this one. And I can clip this now, snip it, or with this one, if I pull it in just a little bit, I can see, let me show you that again. I can see where the edge goes, all right? So I can stitch my 1/4 of an inch down here to here. And then I can clip it or snip it. So it really depends upon what you want to do. These are kind of individual sort of decisions that you want to make. This time I'll do it the other way and show you how that works. So then I just go ahead and come again to my machine, and as a general rule, you want to use 1/4 inch seam allowances. That's the normal in the quilt world. That's kind of a standard that we go by. All right, so there I'm clipping. And I have so many scissors out on my desk. I'm like, whoa. Okay. So, see how pretty? See, this is just so much fun. Okay, now I'm going to turn this one up and clip it after I have stitched my seam, just to show you the difference. And you could try both methods and see what works for you. You may have a preference one way or the other that you like. So then I will continue. Let me do a few more off camera and I will show you. So what I'm going to do off camera, I'm going to continue to build on the front, keeping in mind, here is my center seam. So I want to come approximately in this area, within 1/2 inch probably of this center line. And I will do the same with the back. I will start and I will just let it grow, and I will want to come within about 1/2 inch here. And then I will show you, I will do this and I will do this, and I'll be back and show you how we marry these two together, okay? All right. Okay, I am back with my little needle book, the cover stitched. Let's see, any tips? Just continue, like I said, oh, I did make a mistake. I told you that I moved my stitch to a 2.6. I forgot I was quilting, and so I moved it again to a 3 point, or even a 3.5 would work better, because when you're stitching through several layers, it has a tendency to bunch. It can, anyway, unless you're using a quilting foot, which then it works great that way too. But I did want to correct that I had said. Okay, now you can see here is my middle line. And what I've done is just kind of trim these as I've stitched them, trim them to just a little bit past. I mean, you don't have to do it this way, but I find this is just kind of one of the easier ways to do it. So now, before I stitch my spine on together, I'm going to trim this to the right size. I will show you what I've decided to use as my spine. I think this is gorgeous. Love, love, love it. So, and I have deliberately frayed both sides. This is about 1.5 inches wide, and then this would be about 6 inches. This is the size I'm making it. Excuse me. But you could, you just keep that in mind, whatever size you're working with. You don't have to do this for sure. And I could make this smaller because this gives me a lot of coverage, but this allows me to play with it a little bit, and I may do double stitching on both sides just to make it more interesting. So I'm excited about it. I think it's turned out beautiful, amazing. It's really good. Now, if you'll notice, this is where I started. I started here over on this side and finished, and then I did the back. And after I did the back, I was like, oh, I kind of want this to be the front. So that's what I'm doing. I kind of turning it around. And when you're doing it, you know, yourself, you can do those things. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get my ruler out, and I am just going to trim this. Let's see. Boo, 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 boo. I want the 5.5 needs to be the center because it's 11 inches, and I want to make sure. So I'm just kind of lining up my ruler here, 5.5 inches on this side and 5.5 inches on this side will give me 11 inches, okay? And then this is a 6-inch ruler wide, so I will go around. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to stand up and put all my pressure on here. I'm going to trim and move my fingers down the ruler. All right. Trim as we go. And then we will turn it around and put it to the 6-inch by 11-inch, and we'll go ahead and finish trimming this guy up. And I just put a new rotary blade in my rotary cutter, and oh, it's nice. It's needed a new one for a long time. Okay, I'll show you the back for now so you can see all of the stitch lines, and they go beyond because of the way you quilted it. They're all caught on the seams, so that's a good thing. And like I said, if you want that pattern to show, you could do it on this, but this is what I'm going to do. All right, but not yet, because I want to stitch this on. Now, where did I do with that? Okay, did I already cut that off? Did I? Tell me, what did I did? All right, I think I'm just going to measure the 6 inches, and we'll just get that cut nicely. Whoops, can you see that? No, you can't. All right. And I'll straighten this edge up also, just because I'm really, as the people that know me, yeah. We try to make things perfect, and things are never perfect, and yeah. Okay, so here we go. I will, first of all, I will go ahead and I will put a little bit of glue down on both sides to hold this in place while I stitch it. And I would recommend for this part, you guys, if you do have a quilting foot, I would recommend that you use that so that what can happen is you can get little teeny tucks if you don't, because your machine has a tendency to pull the top thread and the bottom thread a little bit differently, because normally you're just using the top and you can get little tucks, and I don't really want a tuck. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my quilting foot, and then I will stitch this. First of all, well, I'll show you this part. I mean, I will go ahead and with the glue stick, I will go ahead and tack that on the back side of the fabric. I'll line it up so that my center is in the center. Okay. All right. So now what I'm going to do is what I said. I'm going to take this, put on my quilting foot, change the foot, then I'm going to stitch, and I think I'll do 2 lines at least. I may even, in quilting it, I may do some more, I don't know. And then I will be back and we will continue. I'm going to do, this is probably going to be at least a 2, maybe 3, 4 part video series to show you how I put the book all together, what things I add, you know, pockets and tuck spots and that type of thing, to give you another option for your, you know, making of your gifts and fun things for those you love and for yourself. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back. By the way, I just wanted to show you before I put this quilting foot on what it looks like. This is my quilting foot. You can buy these separately depending on what your machine is. It will fit a lot of different models. Mine is a Janome, and what it does is it feeds the top and the bottom through the same rate. That way you don't get the fabrics going off. They go together, and it just works better. And this is my regular foot that I have been using, so I'm just taking this off and replacing it with this one. This is a quilting bar guide, so that I don't particularly need it for this application, but if I wanted to quilt my fabric, then I can use this to determine how far apart I want my quilting lines. It moves in and out, and so you can do wider or narrow quilting, and you will stitch down the center, and so that determines the amount. And so then your last line of stitching, you just have this bar and it goes on your line of stitching, and that way it gives you a correct distance between if you want to use that. All right. Okay, I have this stitched on. I've done double stitching, and I have one more spot that I'm going to stitch right down the center. But when I do that, I want my liner attached. So let's do this. And I have trimmed this so that they both measure 6 inches by 11 inches. And here again, because the liner doesn't have a mark, I'm going to go ahead and fold that in the center, and that will give me a guideline in my stitching. And to do my stitching properly, I think I'm actually going to break down and use some of my straight pins. Oh, I don't normally, but hey, it's okay. I'm allowed. As are you. So I want to tack it down just a little bit to make sure that I get this correctly. It's just a really fun project. And this will create my pocket on both sides as I stitch down the center. I haven't quite, oh, that's too big. These are silk pins that I'm using, silk dress pins. They go in quite nicely. There's definitely a difference in pins. Okay, so I'm going to stitch straight down here. I still have my quilting foot on, and I have it set to a 3.0. And by stitching here, that will create my pockets. And then I'm ready to do some kind of finishing on the edges. I don't know yet whether I want to put lace there or binding or raw. I'm not sure about that. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to shut the video off for this. You can go ahead and listen along, or you can work on your own right at the moment. I'm starting from the bottom where the pocket is, and when I get to the top of the pocket, I'm just doing a little bit of back stitching to go where the pocket starts and ends, just to give it some extra strength. And then I'm also going to do a little bit of back stitching on the top and the bottom, okay? So let's go ahead and trim those off. And you can see this is where I was talking about. I started here and went up and then did a little bit of stay stitching and then continued on up and started put it in like this. And okay, so here we go. Isn't that pretty? All right. So this is on its way. I have to figure out, because there is no ulterior whatever. I don't have in mind what I'm doing yet as far as what kinds of pockets and things I'm going to put in it, as far as what kind of binding or lace or whatever additives. So I think we'll leave it at this point. Oh, yes, it's good to leave it. And let me explain another thing to you. Let me take these out real quickly. Ooh, it's good I remembered this. Sometimes I don't remember, and then I either unpick or I modify. Okay, see this? If I do, and I'm going to want something, a pocket or some kind of pretty decoration on the front, I want to do that before I stitch this closed. Otherwise, it's going to show here and my pocket's going to be in the way and it's going to be a mess and I'm going to be very unhappy. So I've got my center seam stitched, and I think this is a good place to stop for the first video, and we will continue on in the next video. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. I'm so glad that you're here. You just make my day more enjoyable, less lonely, especially during this time of isolation, but even in normal times. I just enjoy you. I enjoy your comments. I look forward to reading them and seeing what kinds of things you have to share and talk about as well. All right, until next time, be safe. Have a fabulous day. Bye now.